Welcome to episode 10 of the Matlock podcast. Crash helmets on.
In this week's episode, Madeline inserts herself into Olympia and Julian's divorce as her plan to identify the document concealer takes a new turn. Meanwhile, Sarah and Billy compete to take the lead on a new case. But can Madeline choose between them without causing distress? Or will one of her colleagues wind up feeling betrayed?
That's Howard Roth, ex-philosophy professor. His legs don't work so well, but his tongue. Oh, Jimmy.
Good morning, Ian. How are you? How's your tongue?
Well, it's not too bad.
Working better than your legs?
Yeah, just doing the usual exercises, reaching the bottom of the Pringles tube.
Gene Simmons-esque.
Yeah. Sloppy work from Madeline this week.
I thought her behaviour was abhorrent.
Oh, yes. That as well, but careless and abhorrent.
Mm-hmm. There's one thing in particular which I think she has she's always overstepped the mark.
Yeah.
But in this case, I think there's no way back for her in my estimation.
I'm away to buy my Team Sarah pin badge.
Yeah.
I'll put it on the social profiles, which you can find at...
Creating your own segue there?
Yeah.
Okay.
At Colombo Podcast on X and Blue Sky and Instagram. We are on colombopodcast.com where we put up show notes for each episode. And as usual, if you want to hear next week's episode 1 week early, head to the Colombo Podcast Productions YouTube channel where we put all the shows out 1 week before they hit the podcast feed.
We've got a lot to be discussing, so we're going to crack on.
This week's recap reminds us about Madeline's overall plan, the wrong attachment and forged signature, the pen recorder in Julian's couch, Olympia and Julian's falling out, and Elijah becoming collateral damage, the partner ultimatum, and Madeline's insistence that Olympia is not the one responsible for hiding the documents.
We begin this week in the Kingston mansion. I've not looked into this. I'm going to find out where it is, if it's on a TV set or
Toronto,
a studio.
probably.
Or is it? The outside, I think, obviously, is a real house. Not a custom build, I wouldn't have thought.
No, it looks like an actual house.
Mm-hmm. She is justifying to Edwin her decision to drop Olympia as a suspect by claiming her friendship will allow them to get their man, Julian.
Yeah. So, obviously, it's Olympia. Or there's going to be a moment between now and the end of the series where we are made to think it's Olympia.
Yeah. We've got several different cuts. I think this technique happens later in the episode as well.
Yeah.
And it's annoying for note taking.
Fortunately, you've covered up with a clip the next time it comes up.
Have I? Okay. Yeah. So we have several different cuts as we see Madeline in the office watching with a smile as Olympia gets in the elevator with an unknown man and Julian turns up. We get back to her with Edwin.
Yes. Sorry, we didn't mention what Julian says to her though.
I think that's next, not in this particular.
I think there's one line here where he asks if Olympia's with Blake Ellison because he's just been told by the front desk that she walked in with him.
I've noted that later on. That's the problem with this when you jump back and forth. Yeah. It's all over the place.
Yeah, so back at the Kingston mansion, Madeline tells Edwin about Julian's lump sum that was used for the brownstone around the time of the Well-Brexit case, and that she is determined now, and I think this is terrible, to intervene in the divorce and make it ugly so that Olympia will insist on forensic accounting. Yeah,
this is what I'm talking about in terms of abhorrent behaviour. We can maybe talk about it a little bit later where she implements it in an even more practical fashion and dastardly.
And it's not just that, it's the fact that she's so upset that, all these people could have been saved, but she's perfectly willing to ruin other folks' lives, including Julian and Olympia's children, to get nothing, essentially.
Yes. Well, let's leave that until... We could end up front-loading this episode, I think, with rants if we had to. Yeah, no, this is what I've noted. Yeah, so Julian asked Madeline about the guy who is Blake Ellison. Did you say that? Yeah?
Yes.
And who is he?
He's the CEO of Tranquil Pines Sleepy Village. Madeline throws him off the scent, initially pretending not to have seen Olympia at all, before I think telling the truth about where she is.
Yeah, she thinks, rightly so, that he will think she's lying.
Well, it's not the first time he's told her she's a terrible liar. Yeah. So he heads to Olympia's office, which Madeline says she's not in because it's being cleaned.
And at this point she smiles and looks directly at the camera as the title is displayed. We head to the conference room.
The fancy conference room.
And after seeing Julian being surprised to find that Madeline actually told them the truth. Her office is being cleaned.
That's it, yeah. And we see Olympia laying out to this CEO the weaknesses in the procedures that are followed at his nursing home.
Well, she's reading him the Riot Act, talking about all the issues with health and safety violations and staff shortages, which have resulted in what?
The death of an inmate? I don't think that's the right word.
A customer, a client, a patient, a resident, yes. An old guy called Walter, who broke his hip and then had a stroke. This ended up in him dying alone in his bed 6 months later. I'm not sure if you can, after 6 months, you can necessarily reconcile both or all these incidents.
Well, he certainly is not pleased at hearing this. He asks if he is paying this firm. He says he's not paying this firm to be insulted.
But he struggles to defend his business practices. But gets up, I think, feeling trying to act quite indignant, and is ready to leave. Says, I don't pay you for this. And what does she say?
She says that he pays them to identify bad facts and eliminate them. Well, actually, the phrase uses anticipate bad facts and neutralise them.
Yeah, I mean, she's obviously just role-playing what the prosecution...
Well, she's making the point to him that she understands what needs to be done to win his cases, and in particular the current case.
It's clearly what she wanted, and...
Well, it's an interesting point you're making there, because I think that if it wasn't for this partner, she would have no interest in this case, defending a shabby organisation that's potentially responsible for the death of an old person.
See, that's the thing. She's showing herself here. I mean, it's her job, right? So they're meant to do this.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be picking and choosing necessarily. This is what they do. But we're being led to believe that she has this sort of moral compass, this ethical...
Yeah.
And defending someone like this, if he is cutting corners, if this business is effectively abusing their patients...
I don't think we've seen this before with her. The other cases that we've seen Olympia take, she has always been able to morally justify her position.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this one, I don't think there really is any... Even if technically there might be a legal out, I don't think that they're defending the good guys here.
Yeah. In any case, she says that she will be his new defence attorney if he's smart.
Indeed.
And later, we see that the poaching of this client from Julian was Madeline's idea, and he is obviously not happy about this at all as he storms over. What does she say?
Well, she says that in the race for partner, she is in Olympia's sidecar, and then tells her to put crash helmets on, as the title of the episode leads us to expect.
And we next catch up with the pair, standing in front of Elijah. This is Julian and Olympia.
Yeah, Julian's whining like a child.
Well, that's what I've said to you. They're both like a couple of kids in front of their parents, trying to explain why one's right and should get the cookie or whatever it is. Or the
very unattractive behaviour by both, especially Julian.
Yeah. They're arguing about who's right, who's wrong, and why they should get their way. And round one apparently goes to Olympia. Yeah,
Elijah shuts Julian down, saying that if this client has chosen Olympia, there's not much he can do. And her point, I think, was that it wasn't a direct poach from Julian because Larry was the lawyer. And we find out multiple times in this episode about Larry. He is a partner who has died.
In the conference room, Sarah is agitated with Billy, who is late and is even less impressed by his new cowboy-style belt and pungent cologne, which is part of his new persona for getting back in the dating pool.
He's also adopted an unpleasant new attitude, but that doesn't become apparent quite yet.
No. But this back and forth is interrupted by the arrival of Madeline and Olympia.
Cute belt.
Here we go. Walter felt fluish Wednesday afternoon. The staff offered to call his doctor. He refused and said it was just a cold. By Friday, he was lethargic with a fever, turned in early. The staff made a doctor's appointment for Saturday, but he died that night. The nurses made standard check-ins, 10 p.m., 4 a.m., and then found him dead from a stroke when she went in the next morning at 10 a.m.
Family's arguing that if they checked more frequently, he'd still be alive due to the crucial 3-hour window you get with stroke victims. Help during that time, you live. If not, you... Walter.
Check-ins go from every 6 hours to every 4 hours if the fever is over 102. Walter's hovered between 100 and 101.5, so technically...
Well, who cares? Jerry's gonna side with the family over a fraction of a degree.
Agreed. New strategy?
Well, we got ourselves a rebel here.
All right, let's hear whatever you're thinking.
Well, I'm not thinking anything. I'm learning about Walter. Secret poker nights. Caught with illicit Viagra. Maybe I am thinking about something. Walter was on nitrates. And everybody knows nitrates plus that little blue pill equals stroke. Well, everybody in the AARP.
So blame Walter for his own death?
I believe the legal term is contributory negligence.
Ugly way to go.
Oh, who cares? Look, I'm just gonna say it. Everyone in the office heard about the whole partner race with you and Julian, so this is no time for morals. You gotta win because I have student debt. And, an immense amount of respect for you.
Okay. So, if we can prove Walter took Viagra the night he died, he could have been responsible for his own stroke. I'll start settlement talks just to hold the family off, and you three head down to the nursing home and talk to the staff. Try to find someone to rat Walter out.
They could lose their jobs.
Good point.
Surely the point of taking Viagra is that someone else is responsible for the stroke.
Well, that's very close to the joke I was going to make, so I'll leave you to take the flak for that one.
Or the laughter, the praise, the guffaws.
I'm sure that
Everyone right now is buckled.
people who are writing their letters right now, letters of
This is a
complaint.
family show.
Letters of complaint, yes. This is not what we come to expect.
This is at the level, and I'll reiterate this, we will reflect the tone of a show.
Well, indeed. And we have. Repeatedly. Anyhow, the next proposal here is to infiltrate the old folks' home by having Madeline pose as a potential new resident. She fakes offence at this before saying that if Walter had a sweetie, she'll smoke that bitch out.
Sarah decides that she will be her granddaughter. And after Madeline suggests that it's an unlikely pairing, she explains that she herself was adopted and rapidly answers the next 5 questions that everyone always has for her. And I mentioned this in one of the previous episodes when we looked at her trivia. So the actor playing Sarah was herself adopted.
Interesting.
And in fact, we
they've
think
written it in for the character.
we asked some of the same questions, or
Oh, there you go. So yeah, the questions were: when was she adopted? You got the answers written down here?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Take it out of that.
Adopted at 6 months old. Are her adopted parents white? Yes, they are white. Does she speak Chinese? No, she does not speak Chinese. Has she been back? No. And has she looked for her birth parents? No. Yeah. So Madeline now knows everything she needs to know. Yeah, Madeline's quite... It's an interesting exchange because she thinks that Sarah's mocking her when she says, you could be my grandmother, because the exact phrase she uses are from different gene pools. Which is a bit of a...
Yeah. I suppose they feel comfortable enough with each other that they can talk in this way.
Madeline looks a wee bit awkward, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, it's all sorted out now, so they head to the nursing home.
Tranquil Pines, where they meet the resident Gladys as they look around, and she too thinks that their relationship is a bit odd until the adoption is mentioned.
There's a shrine to Walter in the foyer.
She is then introduced to the girls and sits beside them while we are presented with the stereotypical trope of the old dears being outrageous and highly sexed. I have to say, and I probably have in podcasts in the past, I despise this lazy cliche. Any nursing home that I've ever had the misfortune of attending has, I found the residents to either be zombies, certainly stinking of urine, mumbling to themselves often, shuffling around, so often shouting randomly. None of them. Again, maybe a different, like, in America, maybe they've got this sort of retirement village almost where you get put in a bit younger. In this country, nursing homes are where you go when you can no longer look after yourself.
Often, your family don't want to do it.
You don't have family, they don't want to, they can't afford to, and you get shipped off out there. It's not a place where anyone wants or should be having sex or anything else like that. It's nasty.
Yeah, I think it is designed to be sort of counterintuitive and amusing, but it's been done. We've seen it in Poker Face recently and other things as well. It is what it is, I guess. I thought it was interesting that Gladys introduces the other girls as her Shayna Mydels. So I looked into what that meant. It's a play by Barbara Leibov about two sisters, Leibov, who were reunited after World War II, one of which had been in a concentration camp. I couldn't quite figure out how it applied to these guys, other than the fact that I think a lot or all of them are meant to be Jewish.
Right, and they're considering this to be like a concentration camp?
No, this is after they're getting together. I don't know.
Anyway, let's move on from the Holocaust stuff.
Well, almost. Madeline's asked at this point if she speaks Yiddish.
Yeah, I think she knows a few words, doesn't she? She sits down.
She sits on her tuchus so they can kibitz.
And eventually gets on to the subject of Walter. And they all groan as someone called Lucille is mentioned. And an album is brought out showing her picture, and they claim that she begged to be part of their Garden Girls Club. That's what they call themselves.
Yeah. However, she broke their golden rule by absconding with Walter and keeping him all to herself.
What's the golden rule?
Garden hose, do you get the pun?
Yeah.
Before bros.
All right. Anyway, so Madeline makes her way to Lucille's room and does her thing of being able to ingratiate herself through compliments, and she's invited in.
Yeah, initially it's okay. Yeah, they start talking about Woodstock and
The
music.
hippie experience, and how they still feel young at heart. They talk about Walter, and I found this quite horrific as well from Madeline. She totally manipulates him here. So she opens up. Obviously, she's hurting. She has this loss, and she manipulates this fact. And she describes how she wasn't with him when he died.
No. And Madeline then apparently slips up.
Do you think it's when you say apparently, it's a schoolboy error? Does she not?
Yeah, but I think she could cover it quite easily, and she doesn't.
Yeah, so what's the mistake?
So she says that it was so fast, sick on the Wednesday, dead on the Friday, which she knows from reading the file, but hasn't been mentioned in this conversation. And when Lucille calls her out on it, says, I never said he died on a Friday.
Yeah,
Instead of saying, I was just saying days, it could have been any days.
Yes.
So, she says, oh, I'm a lawyer.
That's blown any other, covert investigation they can do.
Yep, that's it. And there was no need. She should, from what we've seen of her previously, been. So I wonder if this is deliberate, because it's not the only time in this episode that she makes a mistake. And I wonder if they're trying to show that maybe she's not as on the ball as she maybe was at the start when she had things planned out in advance. Or
that they're trying to show her to be more compassionate here, and she doesn't want to lie anymore.
I don't think it's deliberate. I don't think she chooses not to. Oh, you mean after she's called out, having made the mistake?
She thinks, I'll just tell the truth. You're not going to continue with...
She makes the assessment and thinks, there's no benefit to continue. I don't know. Maybe.
Of course, after this, she is ordered to leave. But back at Jacobson Moor, Madeline tells the team that this means there is no evidence that Walter had taken any Viagra, any other medication, and the twosome have further bad news for Olympia.
Yes, the floor nurse has admitted that the 4 a.m. check was not carried out.
Olympia is then surprised when Sarah asks if they have to tell the prosecution about this, which is an odd thing for a very basic. Now, we should say one of our listeners got in touch and provided a lot of information about discovery and the legal requirements. Of course, we did know that, but I'm not sure if we, at that point, when we'd questioned what Jacobson Moor had, or Brexit, what laws they had broken, I'm not sure if we were aware there actually was if they'd explicitly told us there was a court case.
Yeah.
Or if it was just general...
You wouldn't have the context,
No. So of course we do know about, I've watched My Cousin Vinny. That's how I learned about Discovery. You've not watched it, I keep saying this. You should.
No, but I've watched lots of other American, like Ally McBeal and whatever else.
Right. So Olympia says, of course we need to, it's a law, we're legally obliged. So obviously from Madeline's point of view, she's now thinking, yes, Olympia definitely did not hide the Brexit documents.
Well, that's it. And Olympia at this point reuses the phrase bad facts, which irritated me because she's used it at the start of the episode. Make her say something different. It's the writing that bothered me there. Why would she use the phrase bad facts? Again, it's not...
to reiterate it, perhaps.
But she said it to the guy, the CEO of Tranquil Pints, and she's using it again in this conversation. But these guys know. And it's the same with Sarah not really understanding the law. It's like, it's almost like it's for exposition. And I didn't like it. It's a little bit of a sticky part of the episode here. And Billy suggests that they cast doubt on the time of death because the 4 a.m. missed check won't matter if they can prove he was already dead.
Yes. Olympia likes this, but Sarah is clearly a bit pissed about the praise he receives, especially after her stupid remark.
Well, there's that, yeah. Olympia says she'll line up an expert witness and gets the other three to start researching everything they can about the time of death.
And after they've left, Olympia confides in Madeline that she expects Julian to retaliate for this poaching. And she, again, uses this opportunity. She stirs things up by suggesting that if he does, she needs to hit him right back. So she's
you can hear from Olympia
Machiavellian stuff here.
Yeah, but Olympia's not that up for that.
No.
She says she hopes it doesn't come to it because she doesn't want...
Yeah, Madeline is pushing them towards that. It really is horrible, horrible behaviour. As you said, considering everyone else that's involved, the kids, and it's just nasty.
Yeah.
No need for this.
At this point, there's I think a call over the intercom for Madeline. Someone's come to see her.
So she heads down to the cafe. Who is it?
Audrey.
Old Audrey from Roman a Day.
Episode 2.
Yes, he was a witness.
Yes, he's flirting with Mrs. Belvin.
Yeah, he's continuing the theme of old folks being incorrigible as he chats away to her. Who and she herself, in fairness, seems very...
Well, she's quite enamoured of him, yeah.
Yes.
He recognises the scent of her cleaner and identifies the cleaner, and then her own personal eau de toilette.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I don't want to think about this.
A sort of sleazy comment about happily watching her leave.
The thought of Audrey and Belvin it's repulsive. Anyway, why is he there?
He is facing problems with his local cooperative who are trying to evict him.
Okay, first of all, why does every person here think they can go to an elite legal law firm in New York and just get free advice and help?
Yeah, that's wild. Although he did help them.
That's not how it works.
They owe him.
You're a witness.
They owe him.
You're a witness who doing your duty to society.
You're required to do, yeah.
You don't get tens of thousands of pounds worth of legal support for that.
Yeah. This episode, and I don't want to keep digging in the same points, it gives the impression to me of having been heavily rewritten, because there's things said here that don't tie up with what happens later.
Yeah.
And it was the same, that bit with the bad facts. It's almost as if, I didn't like it.
What I don't do, every week when I talk about the writer, there's a story consultant, there is someone who's given the title of being the writer for that episode, but you've also got staff writers who obviously contribute perhaps to dialogue and things like that. So, there are different people involved. Anyway, so in terms of Audrey, he's about to get evicted apparently the next day on a trumped-up charge where his neighbour, who is on the co-op board, wants to buy his place. So he thinks this neighbour's trying to force him out to take over his property.
There's been noise complaints, but he says he has a routine and he knows that he hasn't been making any excess noise.
Yeah.
However, later on he'll admit that there has been excess noise.
Yes, but not of his doing.
But that's not what he says here. He says there's been no excess noise here.
That's true.
A completely different position.
Meanwhile, Olympia enters Elijah's office, and before she can speak, he makes it known in no uncertain terms that he's going to be professional in the situation with her and Julian, and is offended that she would think otherwise.
Yeah, she then pulls the rug out from under him a little bit by pointing out that is not at all what she was here for, even if it is what Julian was here for. She just wants him to give her the contact details for an expert witness that he used on a previous case.
In the U3 office, Audrey is there and is impressed that Billy has identical taste in belts and refers to him as what?
Buckle buddy, and he calls the belt a lady killer. However, there are huge concerns with this scene for me. How is this not a massive breach of confidentiality when he's sitting there looking at all the evidence from this case on a board and the wall and giving them advice on it?
Yeah. Data protection.
Why is he in their office?
Shouldn't be.
This is wild.
Yeah.
I know he's presented as harmless and, a good guy, friendly guy. That doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Anyway, Sarah has come up with something that might help him.
Sarah the honey badger.
Well, so he says.
I think he says she's got honey badger DNA after she manages to buy him another 2 weeks due to what?
An error in the procedure that was used to serve the notice on him.
And so when he leaves with Madeline, they again bump into Mrs. Belvin.
Yeah, she's got a card for Larry's widow that she needs Madeline to sign.
And as they continue their romantic teasing, Madeline is disturbed. Why?
The pen is the recorder.
Ah.
She texts Edwin, asks him what he can hear right now, and he confirms it is her.
But that night, as they sit at the kitchen table eating ice cream, he convinces her not to panic. At least not about the pen. I think that's crazy advice. That is, he's saying it's cool, don't worry about it. I think she should be.
I'm also a bit confused by what he says here. So the last time we talked about the pen, they were reading transcripts, but now he's gone back and listened to the whole day's recording.
Well, he can do both, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose maybe. He's used it to track the pen around the office. It's been all over the litigation floor with Mrs. Belvin. But yeah, as you say, he thinks there's no need to worry.
I can't link it to her, even if they did find it. But she's also anxious about something else.
Yeah, she's feeling old and worried, because she's been to this old folks home, obviously. She's worrying what's going to happen to Alfie when they're gone, and tries to take away the ice cream and substitute it with some massaged kale. Yes,
which they're going to have to eat for the next 40 years. I like when this dynamic or when this relationship takes on a more realistic turn, so considering Alfie and what they're putting him through and what might happen, the consequences. But that also makes it obvious that they haven't really considered the risk. So they're talking about their health and their age, which is understandable. But what they haven't really accepted is that if they get caught here, they could both be going to jail.
And Alfie.
No, he wouldn't, because he's been coerced.
Has he?
And he's a minor, yeah. He wouldn't be going to jail, but they would be definitely...
Young Offenders Institution.
A good lawyer, which they have, or maybe they don't have now, wouldn't have access to. But yeah, no, he's been told to do it by the grandparents. But yeah, they're both, that's as good as being dead in terms of...
Certainly absent, yeah.
Yeah, being looked after. So yeah, maybe if you're worried about how Alfie's going to cope, you shouldn't be putting yourself in that position.
Well, indeed.
The next day, we find ourselves in court, listening to the expert witnesses from both sides.
When it comes to determining the time of death, the most accurate factors are rigor mortis, algor mortis, livor mortis.
Let's start with rigor mortis.
Stiffening of the body muscles. Walter's degree of advancement indicates he'd been dead since around 1:30 a.m.
Which means even if my client's staff had checked on Walter at 4 a.m., it would not have mattered.
Correct.
Walter Higgins died at 4:30 a.m.
Oh my. But that means the 4 a.m. check-in, the one Tranquil Pines failed to do, would have been crucial.
I believe it could have saved his life.
Oh my. But what about his degree of rigor mortis?
Walter was elderly, so he had low muscle mass. Also, he had been sick. Both factors accelerate the rate of stiffening.
Tell me about algor mortis, the cooling of the body after death.
The Gleister equation is our industry standard. The formula supports my 4:30 a.m. time of death.
Numbers don't lie.
But they can be influenced. Is that what you're saying?
Walter liked to keep his room at a balmy 78 degrees and wore warm clothing to bed, which artificially slows the rate of cooling.
Finally, livor mortis. What is it?
The pooling of the blood in the lower portion of the body. Walter barely had any, which means he died at 4:30.
His medical grade bed was designed to automatically tilt as he slept, thereby affecting his circulation, supporting 1:30.
No way. The bed could have flipped him like a pancake, and he still would have had more if he had died as early as the defense claims.
Started off so good, ended so bad.
Sort of like my date last night.
Continuing on my childish theme, tell me about your rate of stiffening, if you want to.
No.
No, okay, let's just move on.
Continuing on your childish theme, a paper airplane arrives at this point and lands in front of Billy.
Before Autry enters to admit that while he initially got the 2-week reprieve, his victory dance must have offended the snowflakes and they evicted him on the spot. Whilst that's quite funny, if he got it because of a legal rule, then his dance can't affect that.
Well, this is it. So we never find out what the basis for this immediate eviction was, other than that he annoyed them. But that's not a legal basis. And Billy doesn't argue. Well, we'll come to this, but when it gets to court, we don't hear any argument about that being the issue.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've got a lot of issues about that. We'll come to that later.
Okay, Billy tells him that it is illegal if he didn't get it in writing, at which point Autry sarcastically asks him what he thinks F-16 on his desk is.
Yeah. He is concerned because he doesn't want to end up in a place like Tranquil Pines. He points out on the photographs that the residents are disarming their own door sensors so they can jump off their balconies.
And they're obviously surprised that he's picked it. They didn't pick this up from the photographs. And when they ask if he's sure, how does he respond?
He shows them the black tape on the circuits that's been used and says, well, so literally he's asked, are you sure? He says, does a honey badger stun its prey with its potent anal glands? Madeline is then getting an explanation from Billy and Sarah about what has happened.
Yeah, they're in the elevator, I think, where Billy posits that Walter did this so that he could sneak into Lucille's room for some nookie. I don't like that word, never liked it. And therefore would have taken a pill. But Lucy would contradict this anyway. She's saying...
Shouldn't see him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that won't stand up.
Hey. Sarah says that since Autry's helped them reach this theory, they should maybe help him in the housing court.
For someone so junior, you can't be, or you shouldn't be making these suggestions. So that's not your position to say we'll give him thousands of pounds worth of advice.
It's just an idea. She asks Madeline to text Olympia to approve it, seeing as she is the in with Olympia.
Yeah, Madeline's happy to do this.
But she also wants her to ask another question.
What's that?
To ask Olympia which of them should be arguing the case.
And Olympia gives her the answer, her response.
Yes, Madeline is going to be the one who chooses.
And so Sarah tries to butter her up as they arrive at Tranquil Pines. But Madeline bluntly tells her that what?
she's being heavy-handed.
Yeah, she says Audrey doesn't like you.
Well, that's it. So what Sarah says to Madeline is that she loves it here as there's so much wisdom among the very, very old, which Madeline thinks is a bit on the nose.
Yeah.
And she does note that Audrey is, yes, not a fan of Sarah.
Yeah, and honey badger is not a term of endearment.
No, she says to Google that.
Yeah. So she offers her some advice.
Yeah, she says she needs to work on connecting more with her clients.
And also smile a bit more.
Yeah, you can't say that's a bit sexist now.
Well, Madeline can see it.
They bump into Gladys, their friend from the day before.
Yeah, it's a different Gladys. She shuffles over, but I say different, it's a different persona. And it's clear that she is confused and in a dishevelled state. She can't remember Madeline and is asking about her husband. And what does Sarah say?
Well, she whispers to Madeline that it's clearly dementia and then surprises her by being able to help Gladys.
How does she do this?
Well, she talks to her and says she'll help her find her husband and then sings to her as they walk back down the corridor. We don't know where she's taking her, though.
Back to her room.
How do they know where her room is?
Maybe they've walked around. We don't know how long they've been there for.
That's true. That's true.
Or back to reception where they can ask.
We immediately cut back to Lucille's room where Madeline breaks in and has a hunt around, photographs this adjusted door sensor, and then in a bedside drawer finds the missing ring.
She then makes a call to confirm that the window has been tampered with and Lucille has this, the missing ring. Did we hear that? Was that in the clip?
No, but when Olympia talked to the CEO, she said that the staff had been accused by the family of stealing this ring. Now,
I've got a major issue with this. Madeline is the defence counsel.
Yeah.
This evidence, firstly, it's borderline illegal, probably illegal. She's not, even though it's owned by the home, it's a private, they're paying rent. So that's like saying your landlord has to get the right to just walk into your private apartment and search around. So this has been an illegal search by the defence. So it's not going to stand up. Oh, I found this ring. Oh, you would say that you're the defence.
Yeah, well, they could accuse her of planting it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a nonsense move.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. It's a strange approach.
Because if it is theft, then surely she's go to the police.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Anyway.
Back at the U3 office, Madeline informs Sarah that an exhumation has been granted, which causes her to complain how her days went before we find out more about her personal life.
Okay, the judge agreed to exhume Walter.
Digging up dead bodies, the faint whiff of adult diapers. Not gonna lie, might be my least favorite day at work so far.
Who did you know with dementia?
My grandma. A real classic Midwestern queen who would kill you with kindness and a casserole, unless you questioned if we were related. Then she was ready to cut you with her knitting needles.
Sounds like a real cool lady.
Actually, notoriously uncool, but awesome. And then I came back from college and she didn't recognize me. I told her I was her granddaughter and she screamed, "Get this Chinese girl out of my room."
I'm so very sorry.
Yeah. I just stopped introducing myself as her granddaughter. And then I was able to spend time with her. And when she was disoriented, I sang.
If you showed that kind of compassion to Audrey, you'd crush that housing case.
Does this mean what I think it does? I got it?
Yes. I can't imagine it, Edwin.
That was interesting. It was a nice scene there, and I think that personal revelation, that opening up to Madeline, makes what happens next all the worse. It's not just that what happens is like someone's been removed from her, it's how she got it in the first place, and she thinks obviously that Madeline...
Yeah, that was unambiguous there. Madeline said, "You're getting this case to plead." We next catch up with Madeline at home, where she's worrying about dementia specifically.
Yeah, she's very agitated. She's got a lot of anxiety as she considers what dementia would be like for them and for Alfie. But we find out, and again, I like this, they've got a plan for this type of scenario involving, I think, their niece and our big family.
Yeah, however, Madeline's not that keen on it because their kids are sports kids and Alfie is not.
Alfie walks by at this point and wants to check the pen transcript before bed. Again, it's just he shouldn't be doing this. That's not what he should be thinking about before bed.
Ringing
a teenage
alarm
boy
bells
should not be, of all things with his laptop in bed, it should not be pen transcripts.
I don't understand how they can't see how harmful this is to him. That everything that they're doing, just making it worse. Anyway, he's concerned when they tell him that the pen is missing because it's potentially traceable through an email address. Yeah,
I think they thought everything was pretty cool until this point. There wasn't an issue.
They weren't stressing about it, but now...
Yeah, he says he used an email address and it could be traced to him. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I suppose technically if you go through forensic...
and stuff,
but that would be... You would really need to dig down. I'm not sure you would do it for... There would have to be some major crime committed to get the FBI involved in all this type of stuff.
Alfie at stopwellbexa.com.
We've seen the previous one with the nannies where they apparently used their own email address. If you're doing this sort of thing, you have to use an email address. You don't put in anything that can be easily traced.
Anyway, they want to work out where the pen might be, so they listen to the last recording.
And where do we find it was? There is
Olympia's desk.
The threesome are there, with Maddie keeping a concerned eye on the pen as Olympia signs some documents and tells them that they will have the exhumation results in a couple of hours.
They've drafted a motion, and if the results are in their favour, they will immediately move to dismiss the case.
And while they're waiting, they're going to prep Audrey. But just then, things take a turn. And before Madeline can take the pen, which she's about to, what happens?
Billy grabs it and drops it in a cup of coffee.
Oh, obviously everyone is taken aback by this until he tells them that this is a recording device. And he knows this because his sister uses it when taking witness statements.
This makes no sense.
None whatsoever. Firstly, illegal, and why? If it's a witness statement, the witness knows about this.
Yeah.
You would not use... And this is the thing.
Unless she uses it openly. It's like, I don't want to carry a big recorder and I'm using this pen to record you.
So that's a couple of points about this. Almost grant them the quality of it in real life would be garbage. It's a tiny little microphone.
Yeah.
The battery as well.
Well, how's it lasted so many days?
Because this is every time they talk, it clicks on.
Yeah.
The battery would be gone in a pen like that. But I don't understand, why. So the quality will be garbage. They will be given proper handheld recording or whatever it is, microphone devices to do this.
When you work for the police, yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want it to be poor quality. So why would she use a spy pen? That makes absolutely zero sense. Anyway, a little later, Madeline is on the verge of a panic attack, but after Olympia tells them all to calm down, she finds herself alone with her and is able to use the situation to again further her advantage.
Yeah, she implies that perhaps Julian is listening into Olympia's conversations,
but tells her not to show her hand just yet. However, this scheming backfires when Olympia decides to ask Billy to use his cop connections to see if the pen can be traced. Again, I don't think that a cop would be able to do this. This is FBI levels off.
Maybe,
or certainly warrants and all that.
I think a cop would care.
No. What? Can you check this out? No, not really. What have you got?
Me alone. Yeah, I'm busy.
Yeah, how would they check it out? It's a pen. What are they going to do?
I don't know.
I mean, you'd have to find out who was the manufacturer of it, contact them, get them to reveal the email address, any contact details that they have.
He's using cop connections.
Nonsense.
Hand wavy. Anyway, in the conference room, Sarah, who's, we understand, is leading this case, is taking the prominent role in an interview with Audrey and asking Billy to keep notes.
Yeah, she's putting her newfound compassion to use by spinning his age as a reason that Audrey can't leave. Not as a negative, but as an edge that a honey badger would exploit.
Yeah, she uses an analogy that she's researched on the honey badger and its ways of escaping from predators using its flab.
Oh. He seems to be on board now with this, but his examples of problematic changes are not quite sufficient, I don't think. What does he say why he can't move?
He doesn't like change, and for example, he lost his remote control and won't buy a new TV. How's he changing the channel?
Manually?
Not every telly has that.
Well, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he can only turn it on and off.
Just watches one channel.
Yes.
Sarah asks Billy if he's researched the case law on extreme hardship and what would constitute that. And he says he has, but he's left it at his desk.
However, when he arrives there, he's surprised and concerned to see Madeline rooting around in his drawers, looking obviously for the pen.
Second big mistake by Madeline this week. How did you get caught doing this?
It's just...
It's glass walls and all the rooms.
Everywhere. Everyone can see. You can see through about 5 meeting rooms.
She's continually caught on the phone as well. She's like she has no awareness. She can only do one thing at a time when she hasn't planned it in advance.
So, with no other options, thinking on her feet, what does she do? How does she get out of this one?
Well, instead of coming up with a perfectly reasonable excuse for looking in his desk, she offers him the lead role in the case to distract him, and then comes up with a silly one like she was looking for Post-its so she could congratulate him.
And so, a beaming Billy returns to the meeting room, and
this is where his attitude changes, because now he becomes offensive.
Yes. And rather than taking notes for Sarah, he suggests that she check her phone and then passes her the notepad so that she can take down the fact that Autry had a granddaughter nearby who checks in on him. So yes, it's
he's
quite
switching
offensive.
positions.
Yes, he's now got a little bit of power, a bit of promotion almost, and he's lording it over her.
Yeah.
And I think that he's not really understood the fact that this has been ripped from her. Or have they been told yet? Does he know that she's been told?
He says to Madeline, I thought you were going to give it to Sarah, and Madeline says, I slept on it, I've decided that you'd be better.
Yeah, so rather than being gracious about it and saying, listen, that's a bit awkward here.
He rubs it in her face.
Yeah. During a meeting.
Yeah, in front of a client. Yeah, it's horrible. Horrible behaviour. It's not how he would have behaved before.
No.
He's never been like this.
Well, maybe the whole Claudia change has hardened his persona.
Could be, but it's not a positive change.
No, it's not, no.
Hopefully a temporary one.
Over in Olympia's office, Madeline enters to find her listening to some old blues, gospel, comfort music.
Why is that?
The exhumation report shows that there was no Viagra in Walter's system. And this seems to compound the bad decisions that she thinks she has made recently.
Okay, we got this one wrong.
This one? How about Julian, Elijah, Shay, my marriage, my judgment? You ever just feel the walls closing in?
Every day.
Maybe I should just call it. Yeah, hand the partner race over to Julian.
Sweet girl, I'm going to give you some advice my mother gave me. Snap the hell out of it. Life isn't fair or easy. It's a long uphill marathon in the rain, and we're expected to run it in high heels. But trust me, when you get close to the finish line, you look back and you realize what a privilege it was. This is nothing. It's just a leg cramp. Keep running.
What if I lose?
You start over. Big whoop. At least you got your cartilage in your knees and your boobs above your belly button. And what if you win? That's just as likely, and for my money, I bet you'll still be here for the next 40 years, probably running the place.
If I am still here in 40 years, promise me that you will spike my coffee with something stronger than Red Bull.
Well, I'll be long gone, girl. You have to get Sarah or Billy to do that. Slowly, so they don't end up in jail.
Oh, I know that face. What are you thinking?
That it wasn't Viagra, but it was Lucille.
So that's the answer to a question that we had a few weeks ago.
What was that?
About whether Olympia is drinking Red Bull out of a coffee mug like you thought, or spiking her coffee with Red Bull like I thought.
There you go. So, a little bit later, Olympia has Lucille on the stand and gets her to read from the toxicology report that Walter had raised levels of arsenic in his system.
Okay, we're going to go back and forth between the two courtrooms here.
Yeah, it was nice watching it. Again, terrible trying to take notes on this.
Yeah.
Olympia then states that the cause of death was arsenic, which causes the plaintiff to stand and argue that everyone has different levels. And we cut to Billy. He answers, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a nice little segue. He's arguing Autry's case and says that's not true, but he's obviously referring to something else. He's trying to make the point that it would cause Autry a hardship to vacate the premises.
Yeah, he argues against a number of reasons why Autry could find a new place, but pauses and then asks for a moment to consult with him when it is suggested that he could simply move in with his granddaughter in Queens.
Yes. Back in the other courtroom, Lucille confirms that she was in the garden club and is asked by Olympia if she joined to gain access to rat poison so that she could microdose Walter's tea at night.
Obviously, she denies this, but nervously admits that they may have tampered with the door systems to avoid gossip and challenges Olympia to sue her for this.
Olympia says that no one's going to sue her, but neither should the nursing home be sued when they haven't done anything wrong in this case. She points out the need for truth. She asks about Walter's ring and emphasises that the children and grandchildren deserve to know what really happened.
And she looks very agitated at this point, as if she's about to open up.
Well, she does admit to having the ring and says that Walter wanted her to have it.
Billy now has Audrey on the stand, and he tells him that he heard his granddaughter was moving to Queens that week by phone.
Yes, he hasn't told anyone on the co-op. He refers to them all as bozos. And Billy points out here that the walls are thin because the building was put up before the insulation rules that are currently in force were implemented.
He then asks about him going to sleep with the TV on. He says, no, the TV is always off, but sometimes he wakes up with it blaring and he has to get up to turn it off as the remote control has been missing for 6 months.
Billy then does a demonstration where he shows that you can go out of the room and still control a television with a remote control.
He literally says you can go as far as the neighbours, that distance. Although, if I was arguing against that, I would say, yeah, well, that's not through walls.
Well, he does go out the door.
Yeah, but it's still a straight line. I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
He then notes that the only way opposing counsel could have known about Audrey's daughter moving to Queens is if the neighbour had heard it through the walls, and he submits that the neighbour was increasing the TV volume through the walls to generate the noise complaints because he wants to buy the apartment. This is what I would call a Chewbacca defence.
Why?
He's simply throwing a lot of stuff out there that doesn't make any sense, doesn't follow any logical path, to try and create confusion to get them to conclude that he's got a case.
I'm not sure if I agree with that. So one of the things that Audrey mentioned was that we're trying to use the noise making as a reason to have him kicked out.
Yeah, and up until now he's never admitted that there was any noise. And now he's saying, yes, there was noise. I woke up and it would be loud and I have to turn it off.
Yep. But he's making the point that this has not been caused by him.
And we're not even told that he's been evicted because of the noise now, because remember, he was given a 2-week stay on that that complaint and then evicted for some other unknown reason.
No, the reason was that they were annoyed at his little dance.
Yeah, but that's not a reason to evict.
No.
They must have had another reason. But anyway, the point is, if he's being evicted for the noise, it doesn't matter that they could hear through the walls that his daughter's moving to Queens. And if he's being evicted because he's got somewhere else nearby to go, it doesn't matter that they could change his television through the wall. So
yeah, but I think
one matters and one doesn't, maybe. But Billy's blending the two of them together into a single argument, which doesn't.
Well, yeah,
it's just designed to discombobulate the judge and make him think there must be some wrongdoing here that means Audrey shouldn't have to leave.
Maybe, but I think he's also saying about the daughter situation is that when they told him to get out, they didn't know that they only knew a week ago that he had this option. So it wasn't a good enough reason. Anyway.
Billy insists at this point that Audrey has done nothing wrong, while Lucille in the other courtroom insists that she too has done nothing wrong, regardless of what the law says. But she is opening herself up to prosecution here.
Let's get through this. So I think it's nice, firstly, the contrast between the sort of triumphant Billy and then the very sombre Lucille. I didn't do anything wrong, no matter what this law says. Well, again, that's not how it works. She tells the court that Walter no longer wanted to live as he hated the home, especially after his fall, and he didn't want to be a burden on his family. Now, she doesn't outright admit to assisting him, but what does she say she did do?
She did stay with him the night that he died until his last breath, and then for some time afterwards. And it was almost impossible to leave, but as impossible as that was, she would do it again.
Now, you can't just make this. See, this is assisted dying, certainly in Europe, perhaps over the world in the last few years, has been a very contentious issue. People are saying you should have the right to end it when you want. And there is obviously the argument that you have to err on the side of caution to an extent, because you can't just have people saying, oh yeah, he wanted to die. It could be abused, and you have to be very, very careful when it comes to this. And this is a prime example. You cannot just have somebody here saying, Walter wanted to die and I helped him. No, that's not good enough. Nope. This is illegal. Even if it's true, it's just so dangerous. You're breaking the law here.
Yeah.
We never find out if there's any comeback, if there's any legal ramifications for her here, but she should certainly be getting looked at. The DA must be saying, we need to investigate this, because potentially this is a murder.
Potentially.
It needs to be investigated.
If there's evidence, yeah.
Yeah, well, she's admitting that she was there and...
She's a little bit
there is evidence, sorry, she's got his stuff and she's got his ring and all that. That's a motive, stealing his stuff.
Well, potentially, yeah. There might be a case there and she is exposing herself to potential prosecution, yeah.
Yeah.
Back at Jacobson Moor, Billy is cheered somewhat over... I don't understand why the entire office is here for him doing a minor housing hearing.
Maybe it's tradition. This is your first victory.
Olympia congratulates him, calls him counsellor, and says this is the first notch on his very impressive belt.
Of course, Sarah is devastated and angry as Madeline tries to placate her for her terrible decision that she made, i.e. removing this opportunity from her.
Yeah, she tells Madeline that they had a full-on DJ Tanner Full House reboot moment. Now, do you know what that reference is?
No, I know about Full House, but I don't know.
So there was a reboot in 2016 called Fuller House on Netflix, but I don't get the reference, but that could be the point, that Sarah uses niche references that other people don't get. I'm not sure. Anyway, Madeline says that while she did see compassion in Sarah, Billy is always like that. Not with Sarah, obviously. Anyway, she claims that she thought he'd be better, and that's not even what she actually thinks.
No, and says that she's been proven right. Wow, that's all I can say here. What a way, how not to handle this situation. You made a mess of it twice. Try and do your best here to firstly admit that you were wrong.
Well, she could do it. If she saw value in keeping Sarah on side, she could work harder to do that. But I don't think she does. And I think from what we see with Madeline later in this episode, I don't think she's bothered about having upset Sarah. She either underestimates her or doesn't care about
at this point, here. Yeah, understandably, Sarah changes and becomes very sinister as she promises she will be sorry and regret making an enemy of her. Which I think stuns, and I think it does worry her. She goes, what have I done here?
Momentarily it does, but I think that she would be talking to Edwin about it later if it genuinely bothered her.
I'm not sure. But I think this was a nice touch, and I think it's a nice change in the whole dynamic. It would be easy to continue along the path with them being the comedy fodder and all good all great pals.
Yeah, a bit of hostility might be good. Maybe we'll see Sarah and Shay teaming up. And
who knows? It gives you options anyway, and I think it is. It's nice, and I think Sarah's a better when she's being sort of conceited or very focused on herself.
Yeah.
The whole thing with Kira never sat when she was all giggly and loved up. It didn't,
We stop very briefly by Olympia and Elijah. Olympia wants to talk about the partner race this time and insists that Elijah does not vote for her.
Yeah, she doesn't want any victory to seem to be tainted.
Yeah, well, she's already talked to Julian about nepotism and how he didn't earn his job here, and she doesn't want that accusation coming to her.
She also references Madeline. I think she says if she doesn't win, she'll start again while she's still got cartilage in her knees.
Yes.
But also, I think and this is, she's playing with Elijah here. I don't like this.
She wants to rekindle their friendship and says that if there's any possibility of rebuilding it, that begins today.
He really needs to say, no, I'll be professional we'll be friends on a professional level, but let's not do this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what he should say. Back at the Kingston mansion, Madeline raises the idea of finding Alfie's father.
Again, I like this as well. We've not discussed this, considered, asked the question, where is he?
I think like them, we assumed that he was also an addict, perhaps dead.
To be honest, I'd never even thought of him. Didn't even cross my mind.
His father got mentioned last week.
Yeah.
Well, not his real father, but the concept of his father.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, they didn't want to bring chaos into Alfie's life, but Madeline thinks that might be for their benefit rather than Alfie's.
And no, I mean, if he is an addict, then it's certainly...
We just don't know them.
No, we don't.
I'm surprised that Alfie's not asked and no one else has been interested.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Edwin agrees that he'll consider this just as the phone rings, and she takes a call from Olympia, who lets her know that the pen is connected to a random email, and as we discussed, can't be traced without a warrant, which is fine, yeah.
But in flashback, we find it wasn't even the same pen.
This is appalling. This is the worst act that she... And I think this is... I said at the top of the podcast, this is a point where she oversteps the mark legally, but from my point of view as well, she was always a dubious character, and it was always, I'm not sure if she's meant to be the good... This is where she becomes the bad guy.
Yeah, so we see Edwin suggest switching out the pen.
Edwin as well, and he's just as culpable.
Well, I think less so, because he doesn't know these people, and to him, they're just photographs on a board, and I think he's more detached from it. Whereas for Madeline, she's worked with Julian, she's been friends with Julian.
Oh, it's certainly worse. It's certainly worse from her behaviour here. So what does she do? What do we see her doing?
She has bought a second recording pen and is intending to use it to point the finger at Julian. Although How it does that?
Well,
I think it's just the ambiguity. We don't know whose it is. We'll let
maybe
Olympia
not.
come to the
Maybe she
conclusion.
has. Maybe he's, or maybe she's set up an email address that's in some way related to.
Or maybe done it from his computer when he's not been paying attention or something like that. Yeah.
So what we have here now is she is not research. She's not investigating what they've done. She is now falsifying evidence or falsifying, evidence here, behaviours for her own benefit. And she admitted, she's trying to cause a major rift in their what's left of the relationship,
which will doubtless harm their children.
Yes,
who are innocent people not involved, who definitely didn't hide any documents.
Yes. And Julian has done little wrong. I mean, he's had an affair when the marriage was bad, but he admitted it, and he knows
he's facing the consequences.
Yes,
of that, yeah.
This is horrible, horrible, horrible. But it does get her what she wants.
Yes, Olympia says that she is certain it was Julian who was recording her. She's going to demand a forensic accounting, and Madeline says that if they're going to war, she remains in the sidecar with her crash helmet on.
So would you agree she's now the baddie?
I've been saying it for weeks.
Yeah, well, we all suspected, but what she's doing now is just...
It's the question that I was going to get to here is that she continues, the point I've written, sorry, I'm repeating myself there. Madeline continues to ruin lives in pursuit of what will almost certainly be a Pyrrhic victory if she achieves any victory at all.
Yeah, okay.
There's no good ending for her. There's nothing that can happen. She could find tomorrow the documents. She can find exactly who hid the documents, why they hid the documents. No matter what that information tells her, it won't fix anything.
In fairness, I think this is a type of show, it's gritty enough that they will come to this conclusion. It's not necessarily going to be a bow and a happy ending.
We have had hints of that, yes.
Yeah, so let's see how it plays out.
Yeah. And the other points I've already made, I didn't like Billy's attitude this week. I really hope it's a temporary change, but he was really unpleasant to Sarah, rubbing things in her face, taking no consideration of her feelings at all, when normally he has been quite an empathetic character and a good friend to Sarah in the past.
But as I said in earlier on there, I think it's fair enough. He's had maybe a trauma he's been living with someone for 8 years, and she's told him she doesn't love him anymore. So
he'll be emotionally vulnerable.
It will change his personality for a while, and he's trying to protect himself, perhaps by being a sort of tougher individual for a while.
And that is Sarah's advice to him, was to do that, I suppose.
But like I say, hopefully it is just temporary.
And like I said, during the episode twice this week, Madeline got caught out, and I'm wondering, is her focus maybe slipping a little bit as she's getting deeper into these things? She becomes more almost comfortable with what she's doing and less focused on what's going on around her and the potential threats to her.
Indeed. Okay, some trivia.
We should do the main case wrap up. And then
of course, sorry.
So, the main case in this episode was the claim by the family of Walter Higgins, an elderly man who died at Tranquil Pines Nursing Home, a Jacobson Moore client recently committed to Olympia, against the company running the home in respect of alleged failures leading to his death. The defence is successful when Lucille, a fellow resident and latterly Walter's partner, reveals that she assisted him in bringing his own life to an end, and it was not the fault of the residential home.
Thank you. Trivia.
Let's go.
6th of February 2025 was the original air date. We've got a new director this week, Jennifer Lynch, born on the 7th of April 1968 in Philadelphia. Her work includes American Horror Story, Gossip Girl, 911, Elementary, Quantico, Teen Wolf, The Walking Dead, and Psych. She's also a writer, penning such works as Surveillance, Hiss, and Boxing Helena. She is the daughter of recently deceased legend David
I was about
Lynch.
to ask that.
Yes.
She's also one of the more experienced people to have worked on the show.
Mm-hmm. She wrote The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer, which was a successful tie-in novel to the Twin Peaks.
Right.
Unfortunately, she's one of only 3 women directors to win a Razzie for the aforementioned Boxing Helena. I always remember that as a kid. It was quite controversial about some guy who kept a woman in a box with limbs missing or amputated them or whatever, but it was meant to be Kim Basinger, who then pulled out, and was a big lawsuit over this.
Right.
And Sherilyn Fenn, I think she came in. Maybe.
Okay.
We have Nikki Arena again as a writer. We discussed her in A Guy Named Greg. Going on to the cast, we've got Lucille, played by Joanna Cassidy, born on the 2nd of August 1945 in Haddonfield, New Jersey, which always reminds me of Halloween, although not the New Jersey part.
Okay.
She has appeared in 6 Feet Under, Call Me Fitz, Bones, Body of Proof, Heroes, Boston Legal, Star Trek Enterprise, Diagnosis Murder, Chain Reaction, LA Law, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, the original movie, and apparently there was a reboot show recently. The Package, Blade Runner, Bullet, and I remember her from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Do you remember Dolores in that?
Only vaguely.
She has had 2 Emmy nominations. Blake Ellison was played by Jesse Bush. Born on the 22nd of January 1973 in Florida, he has also been in Monsters, Better Call Saul, 911 and Lethal Weapon. And finally, Gladys. Poor Gladys.
Yeah.
She was played by Betsy Randall. Chicago, the 24th, 1955 was her place and date of birth. And you may have seen her in Charmed, Home Improvement, Baywatch, Family Ties. But more likely to be Girl Meets World and Boy Meets World, where she played the mom.
You said she was born in Chicago the 24th?
Yeah, 1955.
What month?
Did I say Chicago 24th, 1955? June, obviously.
All right, obviously.
Obviously. That's all I've got.
Okay, so next week, the tension gets ratcheted up as Shay lends the team her expertise once more in A Traitor in Thine Own House.
Until then,
cheerio.
Bye-bye.